Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nichman.
Our guest today is Shaun Belding, customer service expert, sharing his tips on how to build quality customer service in your company. He shares his latest book, The Journey to Wow, The Path to Understanding Customer Experience and Loyalty. Find out more at ShaunBelding.com or beldingtraining.com. That is BELDING training.com. Hi, Shaun. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, Christina. This is awesome. And thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you betcha. This is the perfect time to have you on. You're going to talk about wowing your customers, quality customer care. You just wrote a new book called The Journey to Wow, which really talks about bringing the ultimate customer service, customer care to your customers, something that lacks in a lot of businesses today, whether you're super huge or just getting started. And we talked a little bit about some of those stories before we got started here. But this is such an important issue that often doesn't get touched enough, but I'm glad to have you talk about it today. Share with our audience a little bit about your background, what brought you to the world of customer service.
Well, I've been involved at some level, perhaps always, I guess, in my professional career with customers at different levels. I began back when I had a real job, 100 years ago. We worked in national and international advertising agencies, and I went from there into deciding I was going to get rich and famous and started my own retail chain of company of toy stores, and they stopped loving me in the early 90s, but it was a wonderful ride. And I've been doing this for a little over, a lot over 25 years now, and with a company that's really all we do is we consult on customer experience, we train customer service, we do this around the world, and it's been the best ride I could ever possibly have imagined.
Wow. I can totally hear that. I can hear your passion about it. And it's interesting because I talk to a lot of people. I'm a consultant and I've gone into companies, and it's interesting. People have an idea of what they think is going on both with their employees and their customers. And I look at it from the internal issues going on. But they'll have a view, the owners, of what's going on. And then I'll come in, I'll hear or understand from the employees and the customers a totally different understanding of how they see the product, the service, or the company. So why do you think sometimes there's such a disparity between the owners and the customers, between each other and understanding each other?
Boy, that's the $1 million question, Christina, and it's fantastic. You remember the TV show? I think it's still on, Undercover Boss.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason that there's a reason it resonates with people, is that because all of a sudden you have the boss of a company whose eyes open up during the show and seeing things that he or she had no clue was happening, and that's just a reality. One of the things is, why does the gap exist? And it does exist, and there's really nobody to blame. If you're the owner, or even a senior executive of a company, there's nobody to blame but you. The most effective owners, the most effective business people I know, and I mean people that work in multi-million-dollar organizations, are the ones that get out there. They don't sit in their offices reading reports. They don't go over their CRM report or to take a look at what their customer experience score is. These are the people that are out there talking with customers, and they don't get caught up in being a C-suite. One CEO who I've known for many, many years, and somebody who I've had tremendous respect for. He's the CEO of a company we'd all recognize, and I can't say the name or I'd probably get in trouble. but he makes a point, and he's done this now for a decade, I guess, easily. He makes a point. He spends two days every quarter working either in their call center or working in their warranty return department or one of the other departments. And he's not a glorified person. He'll go into the call center, put on the headset, and just works. And he tells me, he says, those 2 days are the most grounding moments of his life. Because he comes back and then he starts looking at all the decisions that they're making in head office and all the assumptions that they're making about what's going on, and realizing that some of these assumptions are these things that look great on paper, because these aren't stupid people, of course. They look great on paper, but when you get into real life, it grounds you. So that is a connection that everybody within a company needs to be able to make that connection with a customer, because so many organizations that fail, so many ones that begin struggling because they're making poor decisions, and they're making poor decisions because they simply lose contact with their customer.
And also, how important is it also losing the contact with their employees and their workers? I think plays a part in it, doesn't it? Because your employees are the one closest to your customers, and if you first don't have that first line of contact, you probably are losing contact with your customers as well.
Man, that's the understatement of the century, isn't it? Yeah, you're so right. What I love, and obviously as you do too, I love that opportunity when you get a chance to sit down with focus groups of employees and companies. You say, hey, what's going on? And you sort of leave an open throw spaghetti against the wall conversation with them. And then you take that information and you bring it back to whether it's a CEO or a COO, and you say, so here's what's going on. A lot of times they'll look at you like you're crazy. Yeah. And again, it's not that it has nothing to do with them being stupid or not being intelligent or not wanting to do the right things. Really what it boils down to is that the larger a company gets, there's an inevitable gap that's going to happen. And in that gap, the communication level through the layers, when you get from, for example, if you go from front line to a line manager, to a regional manager, to a regional VP, to a VP, by the time it gets to the CEO, well, it doesn't. It never makes it there. And if it does make it there, it's so filtered and it's so homogenized that you're not getting anything remotely resembling the reality that's going on.
Yeah. Now, tell me, from your experience, Shaun, how important is it? Because I'm guessing if you get, as the owner, feedback from the people beneath you, whether it be the managers, the supervisors from every department, I'm thinking if it's so filtered, a lot of them want to impress you. They want to make you feel good. Oh, everything's fine, Mr. Boss, Mr. Owner. And so how important is it to find the people that will tell you the real truth of what's going on and not be scared to bring you the truth? Because I think that's the other problem. I think some businesses make it so that as a manager or supervisor, you don't feel comfortable telling the truth to the owner or, CFO.
That's
controller.
so true. That's so real. Now, to be fair to everybody, is the reality is that it's very unlikely you'll find somebody who's 100% comfortable telling you the truth, no matter how solid your relationship is, and particularly if it's the larger the company, the less frank somebody is going to be with you, and it just seems to be a reality of how the world is. The one thing, though, I'm not convinced that is. I think that's a reality, and I think it's something that we have to be aware of. I think the biggest danger, though, and one of the most insidious ones, is when people in a senior position shut themselves off, so you can't get hold of them. Just try to, if you have a bad experience with a company and it's a large company, you as a customer, and just say, you know what, this is something that the president needs to know about what's going on, because I'm pretty sure that this is not the way they want this company to work. Try to get hold of that person. Try to get through the walls. You can't. You'll get shunted off to their call center, to a chat bot, to anything else, and you can't do that. So what happens is you end up with people at senior positions that have, either intentionally or not intentionally, created such strong walls around them that the people that matter, whether it's an employee or whether it's a customer, can't tell them what's going on. And I see that over and over again. And it's funny. I mean, I've been going through that just in the last 2 days. with a company everybody would recognize it was a personal thing. And I got thinking, I know what this company stands for. I know what they're trying to achieve. This is not an experience that there's a chink in their armor. There's a chink in one of their touch points in the customer's journey. I'd really like to tell this person that. But the only person I can get hold of is the chat bot that operates on Twitter that takes the messages for me. And all I can think of is, man, you know what? Why should I care more about this company than they apparently care about me as a customer?
Wow. You said something so important there, Shaun, and this brings home to me. There's a place nearby my house that I'd gone into a shop, and it's a small business, and I'd gotten some really shabby customer service from the people they hired behind the counter. And it happened. I'm a really easygoing type of person. So if it happened once, easy breezy, let it go. It happened 3 times. So by the 3rd time, I was like, okay, this is a problem. So I went to their Facebook page and I noted something in a direct message, got no response. And then I went online. They used to have a website taken down. I went to look online, Google, white pages to look for a phone number, could not find a phone number. And then by that time I was like, I'm done. Never going back there again. And I haven't. It's been 3 years. Never touched it. But see, that is so sad because I'm pretty sure this is a very small business. Had I been able to reach the owner or someone pretty high level, that they would make sure to resolve that because they wouldn't want to know that the people they're putting out there and hiring are treating their customers shabbily.
Absolutely. And how much money, you think about this. So there's a really interesting formula in the cost of a lost customer. When you take into account a customer's average lifetime value and you take into account word of mouth and those sorts of things. So how much did that cost that person? You say it's been 3 years. So how many people over 3 years did you tell about that experience? How many times did you go someplace else instead of there, like yourself? That one bad experience has probably cost that person a colossal amount of money, and they have no clue that it happened.
Yeah, that's scary. And I being a business owner and everyone else listening in here, we're hoping we haven't done that to someone, one of our clients. So that's a scary thing. I mean, I really try hard to have communications open, but I remember early on when I first started my business, I had a website. I was so broke. I had to build it myself and it was very limited. And I thought it was pretty darn good. It looked pretty. And someone said to me, I think 6 months in, I'm really frustrated because I had to go through your whole website to find a phone number. And after he told me that, I made sure to put it right on the front page. And I have a contact page that you can easily see it. But so far, I haven't had that complaint since then. But see, that's something to listen into. But we were talking before the interview that even super legacy places that we all know of by name are not immune to this type of thing, to losing customers or having customers be unhappy. Share, one of the legacies you spoke about. You said you had a good story to talk about.
Well, sadly it's not a good story, but it's kind of a good story, if you know what I mean. It's
the learning story.
Sears. Well, it is. It's Sears, and right now when you read you're reading some of the things about why Sears has went by the wayside, and there's all kinds of charts showing how Amazon's growth and Sears' decline sort of match each other. Truth is, Amazon had very little to do with the demise of Sears. It might have accelerated it a little bit, but here's the thing. See, I'm old enough. I hate to say this, but I remember my parents. I was a child of the 60s and the 70s, and my dad was a rabid, loyal Sears person, as was virtually everybody. He'd buy all of his craftsman tools all everywhere and my mother would buy our furniture, our clothing, everything was Sears. It was the go-to place. Companies these days would kill for that level of loyalty. Sears was like your favorite uncle. Sears was that you knew that it would always be there for you. And if my father, and I remember my father walking into a house and he was carrying an electric drill that he just bought a week earlier from Sears. But now he's holding it. It's in several twisted and bent pieces. He'd backed over it in the car. And he said, come on. So I was like 12 years old. And he said, come on with me, son. We're going to go to Sears. And on the way there, he said, what the reason that I buy all this stuff from Sears is I know that even when this happens, I can take it to them and they will take it back from me. And that was their policy. Basically, you could bring back something that was 100 years old and broke it. Didn't matter whose fault it was, they'd take it back. So we did. We walked in, the salesperson looked at it and shared a laugh with my father. And then just without anything else, just kind of handed him a new drill and said, be a little bit more careful, would you? Or made some kind of a joke. And on the way back, my father said, so tell me, why would I shop anyplace else? Now, that was Sears. That they were part of the family, and you believed that. But now you fast forward, and if you want to trace back where Sears started, it's probably the late 1980s, early 1990s. And what was happening in the 80s was Walmart. So Walmart went from, in 12 years, I think, is 1987, Walmart grew to like 1,200 stores. But 12 years before that, they only had 120. So they grew like 1,000 stores in 12 years. So you can imagine all department stores like Sears, right, are feeling the pinch. And of course, that would be impacting the revenues and impacting everything else. Sears' response, and this was the mistake, was that they forgot what got them to where they were. They were successful because of the experience they provided their customer, because the customer's journey through Sears was awesome. But what happened in the 90s is that Sears responded like, I think the accountants took over. And my apologies to all the accountants out there. That's really just a phrase, and I don't need any nasty letters. I really like accountants, and but what happened was they looked at things like they said, wow, okay, our profits are down. Well, what do you have to do? You know what we have to do? We have to start cutting. So we're going to cut staff. And that's one of the first things Sears did. And that store where you used to be able to go in and always find somebody, always get help, now you can't find anybody because they'd centralized caches and they'd moved things around. Their return policy, very quietly, Sears changed it. So these customers that had been loyal for so long would be taking things back, and it was, do you have a receipt? Was it longer than 2 weeks ago? Oh, did you do this yourself? Yeah, sucks to be you. And they probably didn't actually say that, but but so what happened was Sears all of a sudden said, okay, we're not going to be the good neighbor anymore. Now you're just a customer, and we're going to be like every other retailer out there. So without anything to distinguish themselves from all the other retailers, which they had that loyalty, then what do you compete on? You have to compete on price, and you have Walmart that is chewing up that part of the market. So it wasn't that long afterwards. In fact, it was 1988, I believe, that all of a sudden Walmart surpassed Sears as the number one department store to shop. And it went downhill from there. And if you look at Sears' timeline from that point of view, where they're starting to try to sell off assets, they're trying to struggle. And it really all comes back to they forgot what made them so fantastically successful with the customer loyalty, because they started worrying more about the customer's wallet than they worried about the customers themselves.
Yeah. That's a dangerous thing. And I've seen this in businesses I've gone to work in, where they're like bottom line. They're thinking about just today and what the numbers are on the balance sheet today, but you're not thinking about the whole picture. And you have to kind of be a big picture type of gal or guy, because it's not just the money right here, it's the overall picture. And there's a couple stores that I recall were like Sears, and that, it could be 1 million years old, and and there's ones that are coming back with that same philosophy, like Zappos. Zappos will do wonderful things for their customers, like that my husband told me. He bought some shoes, and he was supposed to get it shipped, I think he chose the longest shipping thing because he didn't care to get it quickly. And they just sent him an email saying, surprise, you're a lucky customer. We're going to send it overnight, no charge. And, but something like that. It was just a nice little, oh, yay, guess what? And no extra cost to the customer, but a little extra nicety. And it goes a long, long way. Now, I want to touch on something else, Shaun, that I think is really important that I'm seeing in my customer experience going into shops and stuff. And that is engagement. We talked before the interview about that a little bit. But there's this loss of engagement in retail brick and mortar. And I don't know if it has to do with the busy, fast pace, maybe the texting we got going on. But, people aren't looking you in the eye, coming over to ask you if you need anything. Where's that coming from? And how is that playing a part in retail stores struggling?
Wow, that's it's so true. The engagement is tough. And I used to, many years ago, I used to get really frustrated when I walk into whether a retailer or a hotel or a restaurant or any service kind of type focused organization. I used to get frustrated when the person didn't pay attention. And now I don't. I don't get frustrated at the individuals because they don't know any better. Nobody has said to them, this is an expectation. Nobody has trained them and said, and in terms of the expectation, here's the right way to do it, here's the wrong way to do it. You can go, what's amazing, and we did an experiment, this goes back 15 years ago with one of our clients, and I had to put my money where my mouth was, and sort of I had to do a lot of praying to make sure I wasn't wrong. So this is a retailer. They had 300-400 locations. And they were doing what Sears did, what so many retailers are doing still, is they're trying to grow by shrinking. They're saying, let's just reduce our customers. I just saw an article, I don't know if it's true, literally an hour ago, that there's some Walmart stores that are trying to go completely cashierless. So I have an idea, let's remove all the people. So anyway, I'd said to the CEO, we were talking, and I said, I'll bet you what, you give me 5 stores, and you add 3 employees to your stores, and let's see what happens, and let's train them. So we're going to train the people to make sure that they engage their customers. We'll make sure the managers are coaching people, but we're going to add 3 bodies to these stores. And if the additional profit that you make, margins that you make, don't far exceed what you paid in salaries, I'll pay the difference. So, and that you can imagine that I'm like, oh, Domini, oh, I hope that this goes well. I knew it was going to happen because I'd walked through their locations and I'd watched customers just being profoundly ignored. Their sales went through the roof. They had a huge increase in sales. And what was fascinating was the CEO, they looked at it and said, okay, this is perfect. But then the CEO had said, okay, in order for us to fund this, right, this is a large payroll, and he had to get sort of buy-in from the board of directors and other things. And they wouldn't do it because they saw employees as an expense line, not as something that was going to, something that's going to bring them revenue, not as a profit line. And I think that's what happens. We get so focused on transactions, we forget about relationships, we forget about that role. So anyway, you asked a short question. That's a long answer, but which I'm really guilty of. But that's the engagement. The engagement isn't there because the people that are running the organizations aren't allowing people to engage. They're not giving them the opportunity. They're not giving them the tools, the direction. They're not appreciating them when they're engaging people. They're absolutely set up for failure from the very beginning.
I love that you brought this up. This brings to mind, my husband is a pilot. So when we used to go on all our vacations, we would stay at a lot of hotels. And, when you stay at a lot of hotels across the United States, they all seem to be the same. You don't really get, it's like one is the same as another, maybe a little bit more customer service in one than another. But after a while, they all just kind of blend together for me. Well, we just came back from a trip in Seattle, and we stayed at a brand new hotel that just opened up. It's called Hotel Interurban. And may I tell you, it is the best customer care service I've received from a hotel that I can recall. I can't remember when. And you know what it was? It wasn't the most amazing hotel in the universe. The rooms didn't look any more extraordinary. It was that they were so super attentive. I mean, every time you go, do you need something? Can I help you? Oh, and by attentive, I mean that they were like attentive, like they meant it. It was genuine. My husband needed surgery. So when we came back from the hospital, they ran over with a what do you call it? Wheelchair, and they helped us bring him up to the room. And I said, it's okay. We got, no, it's okay. Whatever. Keep the wheelchair to the end of the stay. I mean, it was just constant. And I've not got customer service like that. And I can't remember when from any company or any hotel. So it's just extraordinary. And I think it's a lesson to take home for other companies when you think, well, it's too much effort to train your employees to put that much effort in to give. But a little bit of effort goes a long way.
What a fab! Did you say it's called the Interurban?
Yes, Hotel Interurban, amazing.
I'll have to check that out next time I'm there, because that's what a great and you, when you were describing that experience, it made me think. I mean, a lot of people try to overcomplicate customer service. I think a lot of people try to make it sound more complex. It isn't easy, and people that believe it's common sense or simple, I think, are wrong. But it all boils down to if it boils down to one thing. If somebody walks away from you believing that you genuinely care about them, they will say they had a good customer experience. If they walk away from you saying you just didn't give a hoot, they'll say they had a bad experience. And the same thing with a phone call. The same thing with a manufacturer when you're trying to talk to a manufacturer. If your customers believe that you care about them, like genuinely, as you said, genuinely care about them, then they'll say they're having good experiences. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. It's about real people and real relationships. I think that's the lost art. Is that no, really, Shaun, I really think that's it. It's real relationships. I mean, I so like these people that I could see having coffee with them, not in a hotel. That's how cool the people were there. But I mean, that's what I think we're missing. These are not just people who are buying your product or service or coming to your hotel or whatever, your brick and mortar. These are real people that you can build real relationships with. And it's not just today's sale. It's like a forever. You want that customer to come back for the next 20 years.
Yeah. And that, I believe my experience has been, and I'll tell people this till the day I die, is that that's a reflection. I'll bet you if you met the owner / general manager of that property, you would see the exact same thing. Our staff, our team is a direct reflection of us. I've never seen anything against that. So you walk into any business, you walk into a manufacturing business, and you see people that are grouchy and torn down and miserable and sad, then ask to talk to the person in charge. Guess what that person's going to be like? Exactly the same. I've never, but the contrary is true as well. You walk into an environment and you see people that are happy and slapping each other on the back and telling jokes and just really engaged. Talk to the manager. Guess what? Right? It's a reflection. And I've never seen a place with a really happy, positive, proactive manager and her staff being miserable and torn down and all the time. So fundamentally, I've always said to every leader I've ever talked to, I say, if you want to know how good a leader you are, if you want to know, just turn around and look behind you. Just your leadership is what your team does, and how they do it is a direct reflection of your leadership. And that has to do with customer service. It has to do with everything.
Wow. And you mentioned something else at the start or before we got started with our interview, that even the hugest companies cannot get too big for their britches, because you mentioned there's a huge company that might start to slip. And why is that? You don't have to mention names.
Well, there are a couple. There are a couple that are out there. One of the things that's happened over the last 10 years, at least 10, maybe 15 years, is particularly with organizations that are in the that are in the internet world, the ones that are doing e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
They are over leveraging technology in the sense of try to get a person. So I challenge anybody. I'll give you an example of two large companies that are in a very similar frame. One of them is Amazon. So Amazon, as we all know, that's the behemoth. It is Sears. Amazon is today's Sears. It's the unstoppable juggernaut of retail.
Mm-hmm.
Try to call them. Try to find their phone number. I challenge anybody to find a phone number, to talk to a human being in that organization in less than an hour as you try to navigate through, because they don't want to. They create barriers to that. They have no interest in the phone call. They want you to send an email. They want you to go to a knowledge base. They want you to do self-service. And this is very intentional. So what happens though is now you get frustrated. You get customers that are getting frustrated. Mm-hmm. Now the people, when you finally get to talk to a person, they're delightful, and that's the truth. And Amazon does a fantastic job of training people, and the people do an outstanding job. But the process they built in because they're trying to cut costs. They don't want to have to talk to all these people. Mm-hmm. But here's another company that's a newer company, close on the heels of Amazon, or at least in terms of what they're trying to do, is Wayfair. So you think of Wayfair.com, which is, they're selling furniture, but they're growing. You call up Wayfair's phone number is right there on their website. You call them up, you get a human being, and you get a great human being. If you have an issue, that issue is solved like that. You talked about Zappos. You call it Zappos. Pick up the phone. You still don't have a hard time getting hold of somebody at Zappos on the phone, right? So a lot of organizations, and I isolate Amazon because Amazon is today where Sears was 30 years ago. It's a juggernaut. Nobody can conceive of anything happening to it. But Sears started with that little bit of, for lack of a better word, it was arrogance. It's like, well, we do business this way, and if you're our customer, you have to follow us. They stopped being responsive. But the other things are social media companies. Companies like LinkedIn, companies like Twitter or Facebook, try to pick up the phone and call someone and say, "Oops, I'm having a challenge."
I tried. No, you can't.
You can't. And I believe that in the world of e-commerce, whether it's a social media company or any other e-commerce, the company that first starts to engage real live customer experience with human-to-human experience, I believe the one that starts doing that is going to be the one that's going to be ultimately successful.
Wow. This is, I love that we went here because it's so true. I work with a lot of companies and I go in and see helping them clear up their AR. And what I've noticed is how many times have I picked up the phone, and it doesn't even have to be a retail store. It can be B2B. There are so many companies that make it on purpose. No phone number. No phone number. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to a human being. And it would solve so many problems so much quicker. And for instance, I will not tell the name of the company, but there was an issue I was having that I was helping a client of mine try to fix. And they refused to talk to me on a phone, so that we were doing text messages. And I think we did like 20 text messages on an issue, and I was going back and forth, no, and da-da-da-da. And finally, I was just so frustrated. I was like calling a million different phone numbers, and I bounced around, somehow got a hold of someone, but I got their voicemail. And I think they put it on Do Not Disturb, so it went straight to their voicemail like immediately. It didn't even ring. And so I thought, well, that's weird. Went straight to voicemail. So then I called back again and went straight to voicemail. I called back again, went straight to voicemail. By the third time, she picked up and she's like, why do you keep calling? If I didn't pick up, I don't want to talk to you. And she's like, who calls back 3 times in a row? I'm like, someone that needs to reach you. And she was livid at me.
And his customers, they're so annoying, aren't they?
Aren't they? I should just go away and take my business elsewhere. But I found it so interesting that she was so angry about that. And it was the fact that I'm used to doing it through text. It's more simple for me. We're just going to do it that way. But I'm thinking to myself, we're doing 20 texts here. It's been about 2 hours with this problem and we're not solving it. I'm thinking 2 minutes on the phone, we can come to a simple solution, set up the proper meeting with the proper people and get it done. But they didn't want to do it. And now she wasn't super high level, but I'm just saying this is a problem that is running through a lot of companies that, this is how we communicate. This is how we, like you said with Sears, this is how we do things. You come along for the ride or, you just don't ride with us.
And you're so right. That thing about pick up the phone, you can resolve it in like a minute and a half. I won't mention the company, but I'm up to about 25 or 30 tweet, like on Twitter now, and we're on direct message going back and forth. And I'm ending almost every one now with, hey, can I just talk to somebody? Because I know that if I got on the phone, this thing would be resolved in about 3 minutes at most. Mm-hmm. But but those are the things we talk about, customer service, customer experience. So customer service is the people part. The experience also includes your processes and your policies and your practices. Yeah. A customer experience, all of these touch points matter. And, you can have the best product, you can have the best prices, you can even have the nicest human beings that are there. But if I can't get hold of you, if you make it too much work for me, too painful for me to do business with you, I'll jump to somebody else in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing with today. There's so many businesses that compete with each other, which makes it awesome for customers and also for businesses. But also that means you just really have to be on your A game. And I understand, someone has said, well, my way to communicate, I just like texting or I just like this. I get that, but you're not the customer. And, and I think for businesses, I think there's really a good word or good, lesson to heed to that, see what's going on. Maybe like you said, be the CFO or owner on the floor to see what, how people are working and maybe pick up the phone call a couple of times and work a couple of customers, see what they want, what they desire, how they desire to communicate most. Because like you're saying, 20 DMs on Twitter. How much wasted time and company time are they wasting with you when they could have had this resolved already and moved on to the next customer? Yeah. So they've wasted money already, both your time, which is money, and their time, which is money. So.
Oh yeah, and the frustration is off the charts, and I think everybody can relate to that. And I actually have to say, so when I wrote my new book, which I wrote in a parable format because. All my other books were traditional business books, but just because I felt it needed that, the most fun chapter that I wrote, and was and I don't even remember the chapter number, but it was basically a whole group of senior executives, the C-suite executive team of a company, of this main company, sitting around a boardroom table, and one guy saying, "I'm going to give $50 to the first person who can figure out how to make a warranty claim," And everybody's like, well, how crazy are you? And he handed out a product to every person. And of course, people start turning the product over. There's no phone number. They get on their cell phones. Anyway, and it ends up with somebody having one of those horrendous, like that we've all experienced, the voice, like the voicemail from hell and the automated voice person. And I had so much fun writing it because it was so cathartic, because it was like all of these experiences that we've all had in our lives, that it was coming out of my fingertips. And when it was finished, it was like I wanted to have a cigarette. I mean, it was just like that amazing feeling that I had so much fun with so letting the frustration, because we've all experienced that. Everybody, I believe, on the planet has experienced this.
Well, I got to tell you something. Everyone listening in, one of my favorite episodes from Frasier is an episode where Martin, his dad, has a customer service related issue at the bank, and he's trying to get it resolved, and they keep making it difficult for him, and it keeps escalating and escalating to the point where there's guards with pointing guns at him because they think he's trying to rob the bank. But it's hysterical, and then the way it ends is just fabulous. But there's some great lessons here that you shared, Shaun. I'm so grateful. Everyone, please go get the Journey of Wow. Where can they get a copy and find out more about you, Shaun?
Well, they can get copies of the book through Amazon, through Books A Million, through Barnes & Noble, all of the traditional bookstores online. And they can they can get hold of me from the website, which is beldinggroup.com, or probably if they just Google my name, Shaun Belding, you can find my LinkedIn profile and Twitter profile and all those kinds of things. And I love talking about, you can tell I'm kind of a customer experience geek, and I sometimes can't stop talking. So if anybody who wants to talk, I'd love to hear anything anybody has to say. So.
Yeah, well, this has been fabulous. I really hope it gets everyone thinking and motivated and inspired about how we can bring even better quality customer care to all of our clients and to our employees, because they're the frontliners to our customers. So
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Shaun, thank you so much for coming today to share your great wisdom on Savvy Business Radio.
Thank you, Christina. This is great.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.